Today I decided to drive 1.5 hours away from my town to try out a different boulder gym. And when I was halfway on my journey there, I remembered that I had left all of my climbing gear back at my local gym. I also remember that I had a pair of brand new climbing shoes just lying around in the car. The first plan was to make a video about me trying to find the 3 hardest and coolest boulders at the gym, but doing that with brand new shoes can be kind of hard, so I decided to rather make a review of my new climbing shoes and see how they feel on the foot. They are called Kubo and they are from La Sportiva. So let's dive into today's video and see if those shoes are any good. My first impression of the shoes was that they were really comfortable on the feet, and after a few minutes I was starting to think that they maybe were a bit too comfortable. So I discovered that they were a bit too big and I would probably need to downsize them for at least one whole size, maybe 1.5. So that was a bit of a challenge because the shoes felt much bigger than the ones that I normally use. So the foot placement and the movement was kind of different because of that. And I used some time to get used to having bigger shoes. As normal, the gradings at this gym is a bit more difficult than the ones at my normal gym. So this one is graded like V2, and in my normal gym it would probably be at least a V3, but that's really not an issue. It's just that you maybe have to change your mindset a bit and don't think that much about the gradings.
Vad fader gjorde du?
I think that when you're climbing with brand new shoes, you will really feel how important the shoes are for the climbing experience and the feeling at the wall. I was feeling a bit afraid to take risks involving especially feet placements, and I guess I can compare it with climbing when you have a mild flu. It's something that's holding you back from that maybe 10% extra effort and risk to reach past the hard moves and to get to the top. That's maybe why I also felt that I needed more attempts on boulders that I would normally send on my first attempt, or at least with a couple of less attempts, because I kind of needed to just experience that the shoes were stable and that they could do the job. I'm also wondering if this is something that you feel when you are using new shoes, and I'm also very happy if you can share some tips and insights regarding how to trust new shoes from the beginning, because this is something that I find quite difficult. After warming up on a few easier graded problems, I started to know the shoes a bit more and I decided to increase the difficulty. So here I'm trying a V3 boulder. It would probably be at least a V4 at my gym, but that's a different story. This boulder requires good use of the feet. You are stepping on volumes without holds, and the holds that are useful are really slippery. So you need to be precise to complete this boulder. I really got to test the shoes working on this one. As I mentioned before, the only problem with the shoes was that they felt a bit too big, and especially in the front part, in the toes. So that felt very clumsy and unnormal when I was trying to place my feet, because my normal shoes are a bit shorter in the front part. If my shoes were a bit smaller, this would probably not be a problem at all, and the experience would be a bit different. I think that also was the reason that stopped me on this kind of mental and tough last move, because I was not trusting the feet and the shoes, so I didn't really want to take the risk of stepping out to the left, and that was a really bummer because it was a really cool boulder. This is another V3 boulder, also with the bad footholds that are slippery and small, and it also involves a heel hook and an uncomfortable foot swap. With that mentioned, the heel hooks that I have tried this day feels really stable and nice, but I was having trouble with the foot swap and I needed a few extra attempts to complete that move. But I was feeling stable and the shoes really did a good job on this one, so I think volumes and like sneaky bad holds are not a problem with the La Sportiva Kubo shoes.
Jeg har ikke noen plan.
Bytt bein.
Å, Gud!
Ja, bytt bein, og så plugger du, så smeller du det andre i benet. Så bytter du bein her. Sånn er det. Her er det. Nå til toppen. Sånn er det. Rulle. Det gikk jo bra, det.
Gikk bra.
This boulder was really interesting and cool, and it was set for a competition at the center a few weeks ago. It is only graded like V2, but it feels hard and technical, and on my first attempt I went for the kind of intended beta on the crux move, but then I changed my mind and wanted to solve it a bit more fun and creative. So this move felt really natural for me, and even though my climbing buddy said that this way of climbing it was much harder than it should be, I really liked the move and I wanted to see if I could pull it through. And I could do the move, and I think this is something that I often do. I tend to climb things much harder than I could have done if I only had used a bit more technique and time. But I made it to the top and I really enjoyed this boulder. There are some boulders that I immediately understand that I will hate, and other boulders that I know that I will love. And this orange V3 caught my eyes, and I thought it looked really nice, and I like the holds, so I wanted to work a bit on this one. I understood that it was a long move in the middle, and my instinct was to just jump for it and hope for the best. But my skilled climbing buddy, who has been climbing for many years and is a technical god when it comes to climbing, meant that I should use my feet instead and go statical. I tried this a couple of times, I didn't like it, and I went back to my way, and I could stick the jump, but I wanted to challenge myself to do it his way as well. And Henrik told me to not move my feet when I was standing on the volume, but place them correctly from the start move on. And with this tip, I actually made it his way as well. And that was such a good feeling. I finished off the session on this wall. It's vertical and a bit overhanging, and it had two yellow tape problems like this one, graded V3 to V4. I got to use the heel of my shoes in a new way, and it felt really secure and stable. And I felt good climbing this purple boulder, but when I reached the top and when I was going to do the last move, I understood that it was a small jump, because when you see, when I stretch out my arm, it's just like 2 centimeters to get there. But I couldn't push myself to do it, and I was really disappointed in myself. But I was too afraid, and I don't think I can blame the shoes for that. It was just impossible to lift my feet from the hold. So it was not the top. I got to the top, but I cheated using the blue hold, and I was feeling very disappointed at myself. The last boulder of this session was this green one. It has small holds and you need to be kind of precise with your feet to get to the top. but I managed to send this in my first attempt, so I finished the session with a really good feeling. I had a really good time climbing at Åssiden, and I also had a good time wearing in my new shoes. I got to like them more and more for each boulder, and I trusted them more or less completely at the end. So if the size was correct, I would definitively keep these shoes as my normal climbing shoes.
So the climbing session has come to an end, and I've been spending 2 hours in my brand new shoes, and I think they are actually pretty good. I felt very comfortable wearing them, but as I said, they were a bit too big, so they felt a bit loose around here, and when I walked, it was kind of air in this part of the foot, so I would like to maybe downsize it for at least a half to one size. But I tried to do both toe hooks and heel hooks, and they felt stable and good. So I think this is a pretty good shoe, maybe especially for beginners, because they are comfortable and you can probably use them for everything. And even though it feels kind of scary to climb with new shoes, I felt more and more comfortable wearing them, and I got a few hard tops that I'm satisfied with. So a good session. Thank you for watching, and I will put a link in the description if you are looking for pain-friendly shoes that you can use for everything. Run and buy. Comfortable to wear.